Y bueno, le damos la bienvenida a la Universidad de Auckland y a Shane Gold, que viene a visitarnos y a presentarnos sobre la universidad. Como vieron, el video es muy bonito y sinceramente yo acabo de estar justamente en Auckland en enero y es una ciudad maravillosa. Yo creo que si se van a estudiar allá van a estar sumamente contentos.
Okay, so I really like the video because it says open hearts, open spaces, open minds. So, I mean, obviously, the open spaces we all know, we've seen on the television from the Lord of the Rings, etc., etc. You know, the landscape that you see in the video is really important for us, and it's what makes us different from many of the other countries that you might choose to go to. It's a small country, which means that you can travel within the country really easily. It's not expensive. Within an hour, you can be, in out of the city and in a beautiful place. So obviously, that beautiful scenery and the contact that we have with nature, for us, that's nuestra cosa. That's something that's very important for us. We also saw in the video that it says open hearts, and I think that's very true for New Zealand. That we're a small country. There's only 4 million people there, but we really welcome visitors to our country. We have an excellent policy of receiving people to come and to live with us or to study with us. We now have 1 person in 4 that was born out of New Zealand. So that means, our society is becoming more and more mixed and more cosmopolitan, which for me is, a beautiful thing. I'm married to a Colombian woman, so that's a classic example now of the New Zealand. And you people, as you guys as Mexicans, obviously you will arrive and you'll feel a very warm welcome, and I can say that sincerely. The last part of the video talks about open minds, and I think you can get a sense from the video that New Zealand has a lot of fame for being an innovative society. We've got, for a country of only 4 million people, in terms of what we produce and the value that we add to our industries. We've all seen the film industry. We saw the research going on. There's a lot of cool stuff happening in New Zealand. So, when you put those 3 elements together, the video is, I guess, it's a little bit of what you would say is propaganda, but I actually really like it. I think it expresses really well what makes our country different from Australia, for example, or another country that you might choose to go to, like the United States. So let me talk about the university. So here it is there, New Zealand, just on the el otro lado del charco, right? So, but the good news is that it's getting closer now than it was before. So what do I mean by that? Well, I mean that the transport links are improving. So, I flew direct from Auckland to Houston the other day in 12 hours. 1 flight, 3 movies, 2 beers, and sleep. And I was in Houston, and then I had 1.5 hour wait, and then an hour and a half to Mexico City. So, often when people think of New Zealand, you guys have your maps with New Zealand way over here, right? Yeah, and you guys way over here, and it looks a long way, but it's not so far anymore. And I guess the good news is if you do have an American visa, there are more flights coming now. American Airlines is putting on another flight from Los Angeles through. So the good news for that is that the price of tickets is coming down, much cheaper than it used to be. But if you don't have or don't want to get an American visa, you can always fly, down to Santiago de Chile, or you can fly from Buenos Aires direct in 12 hours as well. So we are closer than we were before. Okay, and I guess let's see. Can you see that? All right, so why study in New Zealand? It is a relatively new destination for people here in the Americas. Obviously, you want to be able to graduate with a degree that's going to be recognized around the world, right? You're going to pay a lot of money, you're going to do a lot of work, and when you finish that process, we understand that you want a degree that's going to serve you well when you're sitting down at a job interview and it's time to get a job. So we can guarantee that a degree from the University of Auckland is going to be well recognized around the world. We've been talking about the environment in New Zealand, safe, welcoming environment. That's important, obviously, for people coming from the Americas. Safety is a big issue, and that's something we're leaders in. Unbelievably, our police force do not carry arms. There is a certain amount of tranquility about life in New Zealand. It's kind of difficult to get yourself into trouble, and in fact, I think for many Latinos, it's quite the opposite. They find it a little bit quiet after coming from cities such as Mexico. I think a really important thing that makes us different about other countries are visas and your work rights. Yeah, so I see that there are some people here that want to do master's degrees. So in New Zealand, you're free to work part-time while you're studying, and during the vacation breaks you can work full-time. The good news is if you are married and you go with your family, your partner can work on a full-time work visa. They don't have to pass any English tests. Your children can attend local New Zealand schools paying the same amount that New Zealand citizens pay. So I have 2 children. I pay $500 a year for each child. So if you have children in Colegio Bilingüe here, I can pretty much imagine that you're paying that much per month. So in terms of being a family-friendly place, I mean, if you're going to do a PhD, for instance, you want to take your family, then it doesn't get better than New Zealand in terms of visas. Yeah. And when you've finished your study, you can stay for 3 years. Okay, so the first year after your study gives you a post-study work visa, which is a visa that gives you the chance to go out and look for a job. You don't need a job to get that visa. Okay, you get that visa automatically if you finish a master's degree, or well, actually any degree, or a PhD. Okay, so again, that is unique in the world as well. All right. Australia has those work rights, but you must actually study for a minimum of 2 years. In New Zealand, no, you can study for just 1 year, and then you can stay for your post-study work visa. If you get a job after your first year on that post-study work visa, you can extend your visa for 2 more years. So that gives you a total of 3 years in the country. And then you're in the process of migration, because you've studied in New Zealand, you've been working in New Zealand, you've got a job offer, you're the right age. All of those things give you a certain number of points with immigration, and after 3 years and a degree from the University of Auckland, you will have the option to be able to stay in New Zealand if you want to. Okay, so I think they're really powerful arguments for studying in New Zealand. Okay, so we can see a little bit about this is from our indigenous Māori culture. As I said before, our country is changing a lot now. We have a lot more cultures represented than the 2 cultures which were predominated up until maybe 20 years ago, which were Europeans like myself or the indigenous Maori people. As I said before, we now have one person in every 4 being born outside of the country. Hello, welcome in. Okay, so we've been talking about our landscapes. You can see a really good example of the beautiful landscapes that you would have seen in the Lord of the Rings movie. These are in the south of the country. But closer to Auckland, which is our city, those are the beaches that you can find. That beach there is about 1 hour's drive away from Auckland. So as I said before, it's a small country. It's easy to get out of the city. And you stand a good chance of getting yourself to a beautiful beach like this and being solo on the beach, except in summer when the beaches are filled with Mexicans, Brazilians, and Colombians. So obviously the Latinos, we all live in the mountains in the Americas. They adore the beaches, and that's a big attraction for Auckland as well. Okay, so let's move on to talk about Auckland now. Auckland is New Zealand's largest city. I think it's New Zealand's most beautiful city. You can see the number of, the contact that Auckland has with the sea is really significant for our culture. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in a second, but you can see the university is located right in the middle of the city. That's because the university began in 1883. The city was just built in 1800. We just arrived very recently in New Zealand, European people, that is. So the university, you can see, managed to get a really good location because obviously it's been there for many years now, 140 years. So the university has grown up with the city. And it's a great place to live. And I think for people coming from the Americas, the climate is very important. As I said, my wife is Colombian, so it's got to be warm, or else there's trouble in the house. So I know when winter's coming because the quejadera begins. But Auckland is not nearly as bad as some of the other cities in New Zealand, because obviously they're further south. Auckland is like a subtropical climate, so that's a winter temperature for Auckland today. Okay, so the snow doesn't fall, and in terms of heat, it gets to about 25 degrees. So really, it's a very nice climate. It does rain a lot because we're surrounded by the sea, so that takes some getting used to. But I really think the beauty of the city and the climate really make a really nice place to live. Obviously, for you guys too, you need to work, right? That's where the jobs are. So that's an important factor to take into account. I said before that we call Auckland the city of sails. We love to get out and contact with the ocean. Obviously, not everybody has a boat, but we do love to drink a few beers on a Wednesday evening and go out and do boat races up and down the harbour. That's a lovely thing to experience. Even if you're not on the water, you're next to it, enjoying the beaches over summer. It's important for us. It's a global city. We talked about that before. In terms of Mexicans, it's still not many. You don't hear much Spanish spoken on the street. In terms of Latinos, probably the Mexican, Colombians, Brazilians are beginning to arrive now, particularly Colombians. So I guess we're really going to start seeing the effect of increasing awareness amongst Mexican people very soon. Auckland is known as the 3rd most livable city in the world. So What does that mean? There's like an encuesta that's done by a firm called Mercer, and they basically talk to all of the expatriate workers, and they say, they look at indices like employment, crime, pollution, cost of living, housing, all of those things, and Auckland is always really high. This year we're in third place, behind I think Vienna and Zurich. Cold places, right? So we're the warmest, the nicest warm place. Which is, it's important. It's a very agreeable place to live. Let's talk about the university now. So as we said before, it was established in 1883. We're the biggest university by a long way in New Zealand. We've got 40,000 students, 5,000 staff. So it's the size of a small town. We have 6,000 international students from over 110 countries. At the moment we have 43 Mexican students only out of that 40,000. So you'll be in good company when you get there. We're New Zealand's leading research institution. We're ranked number 82 in the world, which is good news for CONACYT, for the recognition by CONACYT and FIDER and all of the funding agencies here. So I'm sure the team's going to talk about scholarships today as well. We have just signed an agreement with CONACYT yesterday. So we are officially going to be a partner of CONACYT, which is great news for you guys, particularly for PhD. CONACYT will be sponsoring PhD students, 20 per year, for a full ride scholarship. So you'll be able to apply for those scholarships very soon. If you're applying for master's degrees, obviously if we're recognized as an official partner of CONACYT, that's going to help you with your application with CONACYT and FIDER. And I think a large part of that obviously is our ranking. Being number 82 in the world is significant. Last year we were 92. This year we've risen to 82. So it's an enormous jump in the international rankings. So we're very happy at present about that. And the strength of the university is research. So we have about a third of all the research money from the government. We have a third of all the research teachers. We have the best staff. We're a big university that can afford to pay people well. So that's important because that leads to quality for the students and for the researchers and the quality of outcomes for you. So we've got like overall number 82, right? But when you actually look at the subject areas, many of our rankings are much lower than that. The arts and humanities is number 28 in the world. Social sciences and management, 36. Engineering is 59. Life sciences and medicine, somebody here, 70. Natural sciences, 134. And if you look even closer at the subjects, we have many within the top 50. So development studies, 23. Accounting, 26. Education, 26. Psychology, 28. Linguistics, 33. Laws, 33 as well. Civil engineering, 43. And so the list goes on. Business and management, 46. And our world rankings by subject are there as well. Okay. And those are the subjects in the top 100. So yeah, most of our subjects figure within that top 100 list. This is, I think, even more important because this is our reputation with global employers. So what does this mean? The same people do that do the rankings do a survey with global employers, and they say, how does the University of Auckland degree compare with the University of Melbourne or Tec de Monterrey or whatever university in the world? So in life sciences, number 12 in the world for employers, right? In engineering, 19. So that really speaks to the reputation of the university. Social sciences, 25. natural sciences 25, arts and humanities 40. So that's important, you know, because it's about you getting a job. Yeah, that's what it's all about. Okay, so the university, where do our students come from? We've got 6,000, I think nearly 6,500 students now. You can see the big pile of students on the left here are Chinese students. Just like the rest of the world, we have many Chinese students with us. The red color is undergraduate, so that's carrera. The green is postgraduate, or I'm sorry, master's degree, maestría, and the yellow part is PhD. So when you look at this, it's very interesting because you can see in the countries where we don't get a lot of students, there are a lot of PhDs, right? And you can see that Latin America is over here. And that year it was only 129, but half of them were PhD students. And that's important because that speaks about the quality of the institution. Yeah. So PhD is really important for the University of Auckland because it maintains the diversity of the student body. Yeah. If we have a look over here, number 2, Southeast Asia. So we have a lot of students from countries like Thailand, Vietnam, Malaysia, Singapore. Number 3 is North America. So we have American students that come to us for 1 semester. They're doing intercambios, interchange. And number 4 is East Asia, which is Japan, Korea. Yeah, and then after that, the numbers start to taper off. So you can see you won't be speaking much Spanish when you get to the university. So we've got 182 partners, 41 countries. Our official partner here in Mexico is Tec de Monterrey. So that's our sister university. So we do exchange with them. So they send students there, we send students here. And obviously we have research exchanges as well. Our programs, we do bachelor's degrees in New Zealand, usually 3 years. So you know, much shorter than the 5 years that's normal here. We have postgraduate specialization, so 1 year. But I think most of you are interested in master's degrees, usually 1 or 2 years, depending on if you've done research in your undergraduate degree or not. If you have done research, usually you can do a master's degree in 1 year. If you haven't done research, often you have to do like a thesis. And PhDs in New Zealand are normally 4 years. These are our faculties. So we have an arts faculty, we have a business school, we have creative arts, education and social work, engineering, law, medical and health sciences, and science. So here today I can hear that we've got somebody interested in just about all of these faculties, apart from science, so let's quickly run through them. So the Faculty of Arts is number 28 in the world, and there we have very popular translation studies and development studies. We have film, TV, and media as well, screen production. I think one very interesting degree that we have is Master of Professional Studies in International Relations and Human Rights. We have, at the moment, a number of Colombian Army officers doing that degree as they prepare themselves for post-conflicto in Colombia. It's an excellent degree, so I'd really urge that you check that out. But those are some of the other arts degrees that you can look at doing. Master of Arts, probably in your case. Yeah. So our arts programs, we have a huge menu of subjects that you can choose from. And we also have teaching English, public policy, and professional studies and translation. These aren't all of the degrees that we have. If you're more interested in any particular faculty, we can investigate it after I finish the channel. Okay. All right. Moving to the business school. There you can see the business school. Yeah, it's a beautiful building. I helped pay for it because I studied my MBA in a horrible building down the road, and I finished my MBA and they closed that building and opened this one, and now I get to sit in another horrible building thinking this is all wrong. But it's a really nice business school, and it's got the Triple Crown accreditation, which is crucial and really important in terms of its global ranking. So those are the subjects that we study in the business school. And in postgraduate level, we have a Master of Management, Master of International Business, Professional Accounting and Marketing. Those programs are 18 months and they're coursework masters, which means no thesis. Right? So, yeah, pretty amazing actually. It's real executive education at its best. You know, you walk in there and there's no big lecture hall. You know, it's people work in small spaces together. They do a lot of remote work in their houses at night. You know, they see the lectures at night on YouTube. They get into school the next day, and you know they're spending the whole day working on cases in small groups and basically replicating a business type environment. So you know, it's real state of the art business education, not just sitting in boring lectures, you know, falling asleep and paying a fortune. That's not how it works. So it's a superb business school. And actually, you know, with the business school too, it's really important that from day one we have employers coming into the business school. So our policy is that if you're wanting to get a job, then you know your job search starts on your first day, not when you finish your degree. By then it's over. Yeah, it's too late. So we have a lot of activities with our career centre. We have a lot of networking events where you can go and meet local employers. It's about you guys getting work. Yeah, that's the same across the whole university, but doubly so in business and engineering faculties. Yeah, a lot of universities, very fancy. You know, they say that you know it's all about the cartón bonito, right? Or that doesn't happen anymore. It costs too much money, you know, for that. It's about you actually making an investment in your future and then getting a return on your investment. And we fully understand that responsibility. Okay, we have an Institute of Creative Arts. I don't think anybody here is interested in fine arts, but within the school we also have architecture. We have urban planning, urban design. So urban planning, urban design is obviously very important here in the Americas. We're starting to get more and more people from Brazil, Colombia into those programs as well. And I imagine there will be demand from Mexico as well. Moving on to the Faculty of Education and Social Work, number 26 in the world. So we cover all stages of teaching. If you want to come and do a one-year program and then be able to leave the university and work as a teacher in New Zealand, then you can do the graduate diploma in teaching, which is like a specialization. So you just need your first degree and you do the 1 year, and then you come out and you're able to teach in New Zealand. You get your New Zealand teacher's registration, and that might be teaching early childhood, primary or secondary school. Obviously we also have the Master of Education, which is like a research degree, or professional studies in education for people coming from a non-education background. Yeah. Social work is there as well. Okay, so here's the big one for Mexico, the engineering. Now, I guess the significant point of interest really for you guys here is that we have the biggest energy centre in any New Zealand university, so energy is our thing, and it's your thing too, and it's Connor's thing. So that's great news, because that means CONICET's got the money to help you do this. And in fact, there are also government sponsorships available from New Zealand, the New Zealand Development Organisation. So if you don't get your energy scholarship from CONICET, you stand a good chance of getting one from the New Zealand government as well. The Faculty of Engineering is ranked 59th in the world. And these are the specializations. So energy's big, biomedical is very big. So that's putting machines on people's bodies, the bionic man. Materials, so Mexico's full of factories. Materials engineering for us is another strength. So obviously we have an environmental, being New Zealand, of course. So all of those are areas which are of key interest here in Mexico. In terms of your degrees, these are some of the degrees that you can go for. The Master of Engineering is 2 years by research, or a Master of Engineering Studies. Freud, I think this is an important one, Leander, too. The Master of Engineering Studies is a 1-year degree. It's coursework only. There's no thesis, and you can choose from any of those subjects. Okay, so yeah, really interesting alternative. The Master of Energy, that's a mixture of business and energy, actually. So it's split between the business faculty and the energy, the engineering faculty. So it's a mixture of papers from both. So that's all about, production of energy, but also administration and supply of energy as well. We have a Master of Disaster Management, which is unique in the world. So that's about the prevention and dealing with disasters. This is a very popular course. It's a 1-year program as well. And we're the only institution in New Zealand to offer a postgraduate qualification in geothermal energy as well. Okay, Faculty of Law, we're 33 in the world. So probably in Mexico of most interest is doing our Masters of Law. And you can see our teaching areas. Environmental is very important for us. International and human rights as well. We're trying to become the chair people of the UN Human Rights Commission at present. So New Zealand plays a very big part in the promotion of human rights worldwide, and a lot of that comes out of this law school. So really good choice in terms of people interested in international law, not just New Zealand law, international law. Okay. Our Faculty of Medical and Health Sciences, we're ranked number 70 in the world for life sciences and medicine, and these are the subjects that we have. So we have health science, medical science, medicine, nursing, optometry, public health and pharmacy. In terms of demand from you guys, obviously it's difficult to get into a clinical degree with the registration. So anything with clients, with patients in front of you is going to be difficult. But in terms of interest in the medical school internationally, we get a lot of interest from people that are interested in health leadership. So we have a Masters of Health Leadership, which is a new degree. So that's a mixture of management plus health administration, and also Master of Public Health as well. It's an important degree, so that's a 1-year degree. And finally, the Faculty of Science. So our Faculty of Science is ranked number 70 in the world, and there's a huge menu of subjects available. But those are the big ones actually: environmental science, food safety, marine science. That's always popular here in Mexico. The contact you have in the sea, psychology. Some of our programs include at master's level, Master of Science, Master of Bioscience Enterprise. Information Technology is a 1-year program with an internship in it, and Data Science and Digital Security as well, very popular. Okay, PhD. The very cool thing about studying PhD in New Zealand is that it doesn't cost a lot of money. In fact, you pay the same amount that I pay in New Zealand for a PhD in any university. That's a New Zealand government initiative. They pay the extra. So normally fees might be about $30,000 a year. So you'll be paying about $5,000 US dollars per year. Okay, so it's very affordable. As I said before, it's important for you to be able to take your family. So you recall that we talked a little bit about the visa situation. So you'll be able to put your husband out to work, 60 hours a week, and the kids can go to school, and then the weekend you can change. So the situation with visas and pricing is very good. And as I just told you before, we've now got an agreement with Seminario for 20 scholarships per year. So yeah, I encourage you to start applying. That's probably about a month away from coming into effect. So for Mexicans, PhDs, fantastic. New Zealand's a fantastic choice. Okay, we've talked a little bit about work and visa rights for masters and PhD students. So right to work, take your family, stay for up to 3 years afterwards. Yeah, so really important. Okay, and the rest of the slides really are, talking about what student life is like on campus, and it's a big campus, and you're paying a lot of money, so the facilities are excellent. It's a great, the location's wonderful, the library's fantastic. There's lots of clubs, lots of social events. The common spaces for the students are really, really nice. Free wireless everywhere. So you're getting a lot of support as well with your English language, and obviously the learning environment is excellent as well. Yeah, and great support for international students. So I work for the international office. We have student advisors that can help you guys as international students if you have problems. Where can I find a lawyer? How do I find an apartment? Why did my son get a tattoo? All of those kinds of problems most of those problems we can help out with, except the tattoos. And in fact, the tattoos are a problem for us because, the moldy tattoos you may have seen. The Brazilian parents are furious with us because all their kids go back covered in tattoos. So, yeah, I didn't include those in the presentation. Career development, accommodations, it's all. So, yeah, looking forward to welcoming you to the University of Auckland.
Soy director regional para destino Australia, Nueva Zelanda. Y bueno, le damos la bienvenida a la Universidad de Auckland y a Shane, que viene a visitarnos y a presentarnos sobre la universidad. Como vieron, el video es muy bonito y sinceramente yo acabo de estar justamente en Auckland en enero y es una ciudad maravillosa. Yo creo que si se van a estudiar allá van a estar sumamente contentos.
Okay, so I really like the video because it says open hearts, open spaces, open minds. So, I mean, obviously, the open spaces we all know, we've seen on the television from the Lord of the Rings, etc., etc. You know, the landscape that you see in the video is really important for us, and it's what makes us different from many of the other countries that you might choose to go to. It's a small country, which means that you can travel within the country really easily. It's not expensive. Within an hour, you can be, you know, out of the city and in a beautiful place. So obviously, you know, that beautiful scenery and the contact that we have with nature, for us, that's nuestra cosa. You know, that's something that's very important for us. We also saw in the video that it says open hearts, and I think that's very true for New Zealand. That we're a small country. There's only 4 million people there, but we really welcome visitors to our country. We have an excellent policy of receiving people to come and to live with us or to study with us. We now have 1 person in 4 that was born out of New Zealand. So that means, you know, our society is becoming more and more mixed and more cosmopolitan, which for me is, you know, a beautiful thing. I'm married to a Colombian woman, so yeah, you know, that's a classic example now of the New Zealand. And you people, as you guys as Mexicans, obviously you will arrive and you'll feel a very warm welcome, and I can say that sincerely. The last part of the video talks about open minds, and I think you can get a sense from the video that New Zealand has a lot of fame for being an innovative society. We've got, for a country of only 4 million people, you know, in terms of what we produce and the value that we add to our industries. You know, we've all seen the film industry. There are more flights coming now. American Airlines is putting on another flight from Los Angeles through. So the good news for that is that the price of tickets is coming down, much cheaper than it used to be. But if you don't have or don't want to get an American visa, you can always fly, down to Santiago de Chile, or you can fly from Buenos Aires direct in 12 hours as well. So yeah, we are closer than we were before. Okay, and I guess let's see. Can you see that? All right. So why study in New Zealand? It is, you know, a relatively new destination for people here in the Americas. Obviously, you want to be able to graduate with a degree that's going to be recognized around the world, right? You're going to pay a lot of money, you're going to do a lot of work, and when you finish that process, we understand that, you know, you want a degree that's going to serve you well when you're sitting down at a job interview and it's time to get a job. So we can guarantee that a degree from the University of Auckland is going to be well recognized around the world. We've been talking about the environment in New Zealand, you know, safe, welcoming environment. We saw research going on. You know, there's a lot of cool stuff happening in New Zealand. So, you know, when you put those 3 elements together, you know, the video is, I guess, you know, it's a little bit of what you would say is propaganda, but I actually really like it. I think it expresses really well what makes our country different from Australia, for example, or another country that you might choose to go to, like the United States. So let me talk about the university. So here it is there in New Zealand, just on el otro lado del charco, right? So, but the good news is that it's getting closer now than it was before. So what do I mean by that? Well, I mean that the transport links are improving. So, you know, I flew direct from Auckland to Houston the other day in 12 hours. One flight, 3 movies, 2 beers, and sleep. And I was in Houston, and then I had 1.5 hour wait, and then an hour and a half to Mexico City. So, you know, often when people think of New Zealand, you guys have your maps with New Zealand way over here, right? Yeah, and you guys way over here, and it looks a long way, but it's not so far anymore. And I guess, you know, the good news is if you do have an American visa, that's important, obviously, for people coming from the Americas. Safety is a big issue, and that's something we're leaders in. Unbelievably, our police force do not carry arms. So yeah, there is a certain amount of tranquility about life in New Zealand. It's kind of difficult to get yourself into trouble. And in fact, I think for many Latinos, it's quite the opposite. They find it a little bit quiet after coming from cities such as Mexico. I think a really important thing that makes us different about other countries are visas and your work rights. Yeah. So I see that there are some people here that want to do master's degrees. Yeah, so in New Zealand, you're free to work part-time while you're studying, and during the vacation breaks you can work full-time. The good news is if you are married and you go with your family, your partner can work on a full-time work visa. They don't have to pass any English tests. Your children can attend local New Zealand schools paying the same amount that New Zealand citizens pay. So I have 2 children. I pay $500